Hey YouTube, back today with another gear video as promised yesterday. Yesterday I showed you the CERIATONE. I spoke to Nick, the owner of the company. Excuse me, I wasn't sure if it was pronounced CERIATONE or CERIATONE. It's actually pronounced CERIATONE. So yesterday I showed you the 36 RP, which is pretty much a Marshall 18 watt clone, but it's got twice the power, but it's switchable between half power and full power. And today we're talking about the CERIATONE C-WRECK. C-WRECK originally, the amp it copies, there's the Z-WRECK, which originated, I guess Brad Paisley was speaking to Dr. Z. Originally he was playing Vox AC30s, and they decided to work together and build another amp for Brad. And so Mike Zait, Dr. Z, who isn't a doctor, Dr. Z got together with Ken Fisher from Trainwreck amps, and Ken designed the transformer. And that's what's special about, one of the things special about the Z-WRECK and the C-WRECK is it has a switch to reduce the plate voltage going to the tubes, the power tubes. Alright, so first we'll go for a walk through the amp. I'll show you the features, and then we'll play a little bit, and I'll try to keep this video more succinct and shorter than yesterday's. Apologies for that one. Alright, so let's start at the rear. Oh, and I'm playing a 2012 PRS Studio, which came stock with the 5708 humbucker, which I found the bridge and the neck and middle pickup just overwhelmed. They were a lot louder than the 5708, which came stock. And the 5708 apparently was PRS. Paul bought some of the original coil wires for the original PAFs that Gibson made in the late 50s, early 60s. I'm not exactly sure how the story goes, but so he was, a lot of people say that the 5708 is a really close rendition of the PAFs. I found it a little bit underpowered, so I installed a Seymour Duncan Custom, which is a pickup I love and have in most of my guitar bridge positions. I usually play a Les Paul or a PRS single cut with two humbuckers, but to show and let you hear how an amp works, I prefer to, this got a lot of different sounds, got push-pull, so it can split the humbucker to single coil. It's got the in-between chime and quack sounds that a Strat has. So yeah, I just feel that it reveals or shows more of what an amp can do than just a twin humbucker guitar. Excuse me. So it's either 30 or 36 watts. It's listed on the site as 30. So it has 4 EL84s for the power section. Let's turn the power on. And tube rectified with a GZ34, 5UR4, 5AR4, and 3 12AX7 preamp tubes. It's got the feel switch that switches between warm and fast, and that's what I mentioned earlier, reduces the plate voltage to the tubes, to the power tubes. It's got 2 speaker outs, and that looks like a variable pot, but it's a three-way switch to select between 4 ohm, 8 ohm, and 16 ohms. The 36 RP that I showed yesterday had 3 speaker outs, one for 4 ohms, one for 8, one for 16, so you didn't switch the impedance. You just plugged into whichever impedance you wanted. And the half power switch. So that's it for the rear. And so it's got a bright switch, a 3-way bright switch, which I assume down is no bright cap, middle is a lower valued bright cap, and up is more bright. Volume, preamp volume, treble, bass. I'll start with everything at noon. Cut, which I haven't asked Nick exactly how he would describe the cut. To me, it's almost like a presence knob on a Marshall. Master volume, standby power. And I know I spoke a lot yesterday about how amazing Nick is and how awesome it is to deal with CERIATONE. Don't hesitate. These are great amps. They're so well built, hand built for you, hand wired. They're pretty much a boutique amp at welfare prices. Just such a great deal. And Nick's so great to work with. He replies to all your messages really quickly. He asks exactly what you want in an amp, and he tries his best to deliver it. So if you see an amp, typically the CERIATONE catalog consists of clones of the most famous and popular amps out there: Marshalls, High Watts, Dr. Z, Matchless. I think his biggest sellers these days are his Dumble clones. So he's got, a few Dumbles like the Muchless, or sorry, that's the Matchless. All his amps have kind of funny names. The Dumbles are HRM, Her Royal Majesty, or His Royal Majesty, and the Overtone Special. So if you see an amp that you like, but I mean, he can modify it and tweak it a little bit to change it just for you. Point is, he really listens, he replies, he's the owner of the company, and he does his best to make sure you're happy and that he delivers exactly what you want. Prices are amazing. And I'm looking for my guitar pick. I guess I'll be playing without a pick this time. So let me try to put this camera down and make sure that I get everything in the frame, unlike yesterday. All right. So it is in full power mode, and the feel switch is in the warm mode. I think I mentioned warm is, I think it gives you some extra even order harmonics, makes the tone a little warmer, a little softer. In fast mode, it's a little more fast, a little more crunchy, maybe a little brighter, seems like more clean headroom. And yeah, it's got master volume, half power switch. The original Z-Wrecks, I think, didn't have a master volume. Now Z makes a Z-Wreck Junior, and it does have a master volume. And I know that the Z-Wrecks have an optional half power switch. So it almost seems like he's copying Nick now. But so that's the bridge pickup, and this is the clean tone. Got a crappy cable here, sorry. The in between. Oh, first, sorry, I'll do the single coil. And the in between. In between with single coil. Middle pickup. In between neck and bridge and middle. Neck pickup. Nick's amps are also touch sensitive. They go from clean to overdriven with your volume knob, or just with how intense your attack is. There's a lot of gain available in this amp, so I'll turn the master down and crank the volume, and it's really good. I have 9s on, the strings are 9s, Elixir, I think polyweb. I usually go for nano webs, but This Marshall cab has a Celestion G1265, which is essentially a greenback that can handle more power. The tubes in here are all, vintage Mullard and or Siemens or Dutch Phillips. So I'll keep it clean to show you the differences. So bright switch. It's really effective, but it isn't like irritatingly bright. The bass on this other CERIATONE, I explained yesterday how when I first got it, it was overwhelming. I changed the cap after speaking to Nick. But still, I always leave the bass at 0 on this one. But with this one, I prefer the bass on this one. The treble, oops, volume. Bass. That's what's going on. I usually keep the bright switch in the center. Now the cut knob that I was saying is like a presence knob on a Marshall. Again, noon, 50% at 5. So that is full power, I think. I think we have it in full power. It is. So it's plenty loud. And half power. Quite a difference. And then let's mess with the feel switch. The feel switch is quite subtle. You really feel and hear it when you're gigging, but at home it's really subtle. Like I said, in fast mode, there's more crunchy, more headroom, more fast response and attack. And in warm mode, it's warmer, softer. Almost you could explain it as the difference between an Alnico 5 and an Alnico 2 magnet, if you're familiar with those. Alright, so right now it's in fast mode, I believe, with the full plate voltage on the power tube. And soft, or what does he call it? Sorry, it was in warm, now this is fast. I think that's what I said. Warm. It's hard to hear the difference, especially on YouTube. You can really feel it when you're playing. It's more fast, less sag in fast mode, and warmer with more bloom on the feel or warm mode. You can hear a little bit more bottom end also in the fast. It does make it a little less aggressive and in your face when it's in the warm mode, which is where I usually run it. I usually run it in the warm mode with the bright switch in the center. It loves pedals. My pedals are at the studio, but it's really revealing also. So it amplifies exactly what your guitar is doing, more so than a lot of amps. It makes, typically I don't find that a split humbucker does a very convincing single coil sound. This pickup is a little better because it's a pretty high output pickup, so the single coil is also, you know, almost as hot or as hot as a true single coil. I don't know how much the amp contributes to that, but partly because of the pickup, and I know partly because of the amp, the single coil mode is usable. Does the quack and the chime great? Now it sounds like I'm describing the guitar more than the amp, but and there's more gain available on tap on the C-WRECK than on the 36 RP, but I think that might be partly because of the vintage tubes that I'm running in here. I think with JJ's in the power section, and especially in V1, the first preamp tube, it's a little tighter, cleaner, and I just prefer a little more snot. There's a lot of snot if you want it. Too much snot, maybe. It's nice and loud, but it's not overbearing, even on full power. But on half power as well, it can really put out. Surprising that that's only 15 or 18 watts. I use these amps. They work great in small venues, bars, casinos, as well as on big outdoor festival stages. They can be rude and in your face and extremely loud, but they're equally usable and toneful when they're not cranked right up. So I love my CERIATONEs. Hope you found this video informative. And like I mentioned, don't hesitate if you're considering a CERIATONE amp or a new amp of any kind. Get a hold of Nick. He talks to you, he asks all the right questions, and he tries his best, and he's usually pretty damn successful in delivering just what you want. He's got warranties, the pricing is great. Yeah, so